Welcome back to the 2023 Tire Rack One Lap of America presented by Grassroots Motorsport Magazine. I'm Solomon, with me is Brian, and today we have a very special guest. We have David Ray from Hooked on Driving. David, thanks so much for joining us. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and, more importantly, what you do?
Okay, good morning, guys. We appreciate the opportunity. My name is David Ray, and we were involved in the development of Thunderhill Raceway back in the early 2000s, and they tried to get a school going, and I saw an opportunity, having retired from another business, to actually sit down and write a manual and really think through the concept of what high performance driving can be and should be. And so since then, we've started the Hooked on Driving thing, which was named by our customers, by the way. One day we were doing a track event at Thunderhill, and I had 3 or 4 people within about 2 hours say, Dave, this is so much fun, I could get hooked. And so it was just a natural brand for us. And we've expanded now up and down both coasts. We have some franchise operations. Mike and Mona with the Northeast region, they've been cranking away with us, coming on 10 years next year. And the Southeast region with Steve Furman, and I think Brian's gonna give us a little update on that. And on the West Coast, we're real strong. One of the major players in the high performance program business. We've focused on providing kind of a premium event. I looked at some of the activities that I'd done. I've been racing for 20 years at the time already, and some of the things that I didn't like about events, and we tried to solve those. And so we wanted kind of without being high end or ridiculously expensive or snooty, we wanted a quality organization that had customer service as a part of it. Safety is still the #1 priority, and we've really accomplished that. We're coming into our 20th year next year, so we're real pleased with our safety record. It's actually pretty amazing. We've pretty much statistically figured out that it's safer to run with Hooked on Driving than to be on public highways, statistically, and I think we can prove it. Nobody's challenged me on that, but I'm pretty sure we're close to 20 million miles on track. Without, knock on wood, and anything could happen at our next event, but we run an event safely with focus on having a good time, cooperating on the track. That's huge. If we see 2 guys out there dicing it out, we'll get on top of that. We'll say, no, this isn't a race. Racing is a whole different deal, which is a lot of fun. But anyway, the focus on safety, fun, and then really quality instruction. We really focus on being sure everybody's on the same page. We have, we vet our driving coaches. We know who they are, we know their background, and we know what they're teaching and communicating to customers in cars. So we've really tried to run a quality program, and we've had good success with it.
And before Brian starts getting into Southeast a little bit, I'll say, from what I've seen, and I've been running with you guys for quite some time, it's been interesting to kind of watch the evolution, both in terms of vehicles attending and drivers attending. And I think to your point of creating a very welcoming atmosphere, it is, and I know we have some questions about this later, but it is a very welcoming environment. It's a very customer-centric environment, to where, and look, you guys were early on as far as DE days go, getting to a track and running around what was really a track rat thing 20 years ago. You had to be involved with it to be doing it. What I've always liked about Hooked on Driving is a very customer-centric approach, to where that nervous energy of being your first time and having to solve for not only getting around the track, but understanding all this other stuff that's going around you, flag stations, flags, temperatures on the engine, all this stuff that can become very easily overwhelming. It's done in a very thought out and careful way that embraces people and welcomes them into the sport. And every driving group has something different, but you guys do that really, really well, which is one of the reasons why we're happy to partner with you on the one lap side of things. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But Brian, I know you've been working with Steve. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about, sort of the Southeast expansion and what you've seen yourself?
Well, the Southeast expansion has been tremendous because the former owner, he pretty much did all of his events down at Moroso. I still refuse to call it Palm Beach, but Steve has been really heavy with Roebling Road. That's pretty much the central track that everything kind of comes out from. But he's added the Firm, the new track outside of Jacksonville. We've been down to Sebring, Homestead, AMP. We've done a joint event with Mike and Mona at VIR, and we have just added Road Atlanta. So there's going to be a 2-day at Road Atlanta coming up, and it's actually going to be 2 days at Road Atlanta and then a single day at AMP. So, and Steve's got some really good pricing on that. So it's been great to see the Southeast HOD come a little north and get to more of the tracks in Northern Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina.
Absolutely. And David, I think a lot of people also don't know that Hooked on Driving doesn't just do sort of the DE events. You also do a lot of private events and work with some fairly impressive clientele. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we discovered my previous business that I was in the staffing business, and we ended up doing outsourcing where we'd have a bunch of employees. We could put a team together and manage a project rather than just have an hourly billable scenario with temps. And we have an infrastructure, including we have the capability of doing a private URL registration for a small group that wants to do anything from a birthday party to a corporate entertainment program. And we have one ongoing clientele right now that it's a group of folks that have gotten together, probably about 30 drivers. They throw money in the pot at the beginning of the year and they say, we want 20 events. We want you to handle everything. And that's the way it is. It's a turnkey. They have their own little private website. We manage it. We have the same staff every time managing their events. We handle the contracts, negotiations, and fighting for dates with the racetracks, and even calling the caterer and having the insurance in place, all that stuff. So they just come and drive. So that's a great model. And we also now have some corporate programs. One of them that we're real pleased with is Porsche Digital's brand that they are building called Marqued.com, MARQUED.com. Starting out with an auction site, they're wanting to build a community, and they're doing a thing called Taste of the Track, and we're the lead contractor for doing, I think, 9 Taste of the Track programs with those guys this year. And some of those are in conjunction with HOD events, which works really well. And then also we're having a blast with the Cadillac V Club. Those cars are amazing. And they're pushing, the national club is pushing with some support from GM to get V car owners on track. And they're recommending Hooked on Driving events at 5 different venues this year. So yeah, we're kind of going a little beyond just the traditional plug away every track day, once a month kind of thing.
Well, what's nice is that there's a reason for that too. And I think corporate customers as well as others have noticed, like we spoke about before, that real customer centric type of feel and a family type of feel that you get with HOD. And what else I've also noticed and appreciated is that even for example, we have an event coming up for veterans that Northeast Hooked on Driving was happy to be a part of it. Yeah, it's with NASA too, but everybody plays nicely with each other, which is great to see. We really appreciate that. So my main question now is 20 years ago, where you had envisioned Hooked on Driving being to where it is now, would you have envisioned this? And then what are your steps moving forward for the future with Hooked on Driving?
Well, I think initially it looked like a fun thing to do and a neat business to start. Looking at California and the 2 or 3 tracks, I'd raced regularly at Sonoma, Laguna, and Thunder Hill. So that was kind of home base. So initially, to answer your question, Solomon, I actually just saw a California thing. But it was the customers again. After a couple of years, and I had done the staffing company, and we sold that company. It was a regional company. But I'd been raising kids and managing the baseball team and being the announcer at the swim meets and stuff. So we had decided to not try to grow that business and just stay regional in the Bay Area. And this time, my kids were older. I was in another position, another place in my life. And I thought, you know what? I had so many people say, "This is amazing. I've never had so much fun in my life, Jay. You guys rock. This is awesome." It was just the response of the customers that made me think, okay, this actually could go larger. And if I could accommodate the infrastructure and the investment over a period of time, that it'd be worth doing. So when I started out a long time ago, many moons ago in the employment business, I was a franchisee. So I thought, okay, franchises would make sense to have an independent owner that had connections in a region, and they lived there and worked there, and knew the people. It's made good sense for us. Over a period of time now, we've developed, we pretty much are covering both coasts and inland quite a ways. We've got Arizona and Southern California now, and we have a small operation, but still getting going in Texas as well, with a privately owned track called the Grand Sport Speedway there near Houston, which is an excellent beginner track. So we've got some areas of growth around the country still to do, but we're pleased with. I think we're one of the biggest, if not maybe the biggest group in the country, based on a number of events and the areas that we cover.
Well, that success sure doesn't happen by chance. And Brian, I know you had some questions regarding that too.
Yeah, David, the thing that stands out to me at events, being at several events with Mike and Mona in the Northeast, during the drivers meeting, the emphasis is pushed on team HOD, sort of the family concept. How does that work so well with Hooked on Driving, whereas NASA's DE is more based on kind of competition? Chin, it's mostly guys going to shake down their race cars, getting ready for events. How has that team HOD concept helped to grow the business and keep the customers coming back again and again?
That's a really good question, Brian. I could spend a long time. I'll condense the thought, though. It occurred to me when I tried to do some of the marketing materials for our company when we started, that if you take, there's a lot of people. You go to any party in any demographic, anywhere in the country, you'll find a lot of people love to talk about cars, and they say they're car people. Whether they're reading Grassroots or a road and tracker car and driver, or they're just appreciate the neighbor's cool Mustang or Porsche or whatever it is. There are just a lot of folks that love automobiles. We're an automobile society. And I came up with a little concept that if you picture a triangle or a pyramid, and that represented everybody that volunteered to say, yeah, I love cars. I love cars. The bottom third of that pyramid is probably entry-level folks, or folks that are really just casually interested, and it's not going to be a big passion, but they're still paying attention. And then the top of the pyramid are probably the people on this interview, the hardcore nuts that have gone off the farm and are actually going to a racetrack and driving or racing and competing. And then the whole bunch of people in the middle that have more interest in actually reading the magazines, learning about their cars. And it's that middle of the pyramid that we wanted to go to. It's just a business decision to some degree. The number one, there's a lot of racing schools around, but I didn't see the offering for a non-competitive driving program that wasn't pushing people into racing. So we've had, forgive the landline going off here. We've had hundreds of folks, and maybe it's a little bit of a sucker deal without us planning it to be that people come in a non-competitive program. And I was one of those that showed up at an event just to drive on Sears Point Raceway. And I thought, goodness sakes, this is way fun. And I've got to catch that car up there. And I had the competitive bug. It was like, oh, I've got this sickness. I'm going to have to go race. And so, sorry about this, guys, on the technical side.
Yeah, you're on your side.
Anyway, so we are, and we know who we are. Our lane is non-competitive driving on track. The word cooperative is the word we use in all of our groups, even at the top level. We've got guys running GT3 RSs at Sears Point or Thunderhill Raceway in low 50s, 150s. They're going really quickly, but when they get into traffic, they work together. We don't have the dive bombs. We don't have any kind of, kind of play racing, if you know what I mean. So it's just a build, and I'd raced for 20 years. And I've seen things happen in racing that I didn't want to have happen at Hooked on Driving. So we keep them separate. So I hope that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yes, perfect. Great.
So let's talk about this year and the one lap. So obviously Hooked on Driving, coming on board for a second year in a row now to bring everybody the live coverage. So we really appreciate that. And we'll do our updated sign off at the end of this. But tell me, and we've always kind of looked at Hooked on Driving. We've recommended Hooked on Driving as a school to get people interested in to learn how to drive effectively on track to be able to come do our event. What does HOD like about the one lap, and what are some of the elements of it that appeal to HOD and to some of its customers, to our customers?
Oh, wow. Well, that's an easy question. I mean, first of all, it's an extremely unique event. I mean, where else are you going to do this if you want to do something like this and cover the number of tracks and the real estate that you guys are covering in a short period of time? So it's very unique in that it has enduro elements. It has, cannonball elements. It has high skill elements. And it is cars that are driven on the road. So it's so easy to build the monster car, roll it into a trailer, schlep it to a track, and have a crew, and really have a intense, 20-minute sessions or something. But the overall experience that is provided by the one lap, and I'm jealous. It's very high on my bucket list. I'm on the left coast and I'm super busy, but it is definitely something that I'm going to do before we retire. So and obviously we're teaching the fundamentals. It's not, you guys don't have a race. You have driving skill and how to wring 1/2 second out of that car at this track, and in some cases learn the track quickly, because I'm assuming you have a lot of drivers that show up, they're not able to go to all the tracks and get ready. They're going to have to learn and acquire the line and the tricks of each track really quickly. And so that's a huge thing to test and to be rewarded for if they're really good too. So it's a combination of building a car that's appropriate for the road, but really very appropriate on the track too. There are so many cars that have so many compromises, and you've dialed out most of the street car compromises out of these cars. So they're probably fairly brutal out on the freeway, I would guess. But they're able to really compete. And I would think, obviously, the social aspect of sharing an experience with folks that you may not have known, and by the time it's over, you've got lifetime friends. I would think that that's certainly a big part of it too. So it's all those things, and obviously, clearly, it breaks the routine for somebody that's okay, I got to do another track day at the same track. I'm going to go once a month, and it's the same old. This is a highlight of, I'm sure, that these drivers' season.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we've said it before, and then we'll say it again. Once you do the event, it kind of, your year goes from January to January, from May to May. In terms of what you're planning on and how your brain works. And I know I'm almost 18 years deep into this, and mine is, I think, permanently wired May to May. Like New Year's for me is like, I still got 5 months into the one lap, so I don't know what this is all about. So absolutely. And what's really neat also, and to sort of drive home your point, any HOD event that I've been to anywhere in the country, I've always bumped into other one lappers regardless. So that ability to get into any track, really anywhere around the country, and learn, to your point, the different types of corners and what to expect. Even though you might not have been on a track, your track literacy raises exponentially the more tracks and circuits you go to, because you start seeing the commonalities in them all and really how to read a track very quickly. So that type of practice becomes invaluable. As we start to wrap things up, what is one cool fact about HOD that most people might not be aware of?
How about a nice lunch?
Okay,
I mean, everybody rents the same racetracks, right? So I'm trying to think, how are we unique? And when I thought about it, lunch at most club events, you're kind of on your own. You're in the back of the pickup truck with your peanut butter and jelly, or you have to run into town to go to Taco Bell or something. And I thought, you know what? We've got the Viper guys parked right next to the Corvette guys. Let's see if they might sit down and have lunch together. And so having a nice lunch is literally in our national information for our franchises and everything, to add a social element and kind of a chill factor element. They're like, okay, we're going to take a break in the day. It's pretty intense. Maybe there was a little drama here or there, and we're all going to just kind of chill, go in and have a nice barbecue beef or a good burger or something all together. So anyway, that's probably a surprise answer for you, Solomon, but it just kind of expresses also the approach. We do not have trophies, and you can't win a track event, but you can lose a track event if it's HPD. And we're there guiding. I mean, one of the little things that we do, and I would add this is actually a little trade secret. We watch what's going on during the day. We have a group lead and responsible for seeing what level that is, whether A, B, C, D. We've got some very, very novice beginners, and we have very fast advanced drivers with advanced cars. And we watch each group every day because they're always a little different. Wait a minute, there's an orange car out there that we don't recognize. Let's watch and be sure that he's working with the flow, and we'll try to get ahead of a problem. And from a safety standpoint, my safety steward, Terry Geiser, invented a term called candidates. We watch out for candidates for issues, and we try to get to that candidate in a nice way and say, listen, that was a dive bomb in turn one. It was late. We really don't do that kind of passing here. Are you cool with that? And be sure that with respect, we try to monitor and keep things from happening through observation and management of the team and each group. So hopefully that became a little bit of a random two-point answer, but hopefully that was helpful.
Absolutely, I appreciate that. And I guess we've always sort of asked our participants who we've done these interviews with, what their sort of best memory is. Obviously, you haven't done the one lap yet. I will get you out. I agree with you before you retire. But obviously, having done Hooked on Driving for so many years and having been through so many events, because I've seen you here, I've seen you on the road. So, what strikes you, or what do you have as one of the most meaningful or memorable experiences over the past 20 years of taking care of Hooked on Driving?
Man, just one, huh? That's tough.
Just one. Just pick one. I know you got a whole roster.
No. Yeah, you know what? Here's the deal. I think I'll say that it is my visits to the other regions where I feel like the team in that region, Northeast, Southeast, Pacific Northwest, have accomplished that subjective culture, and they've got the family. What you were talking about, Solomon, that warms my heart, because you've only been out here a couple times, but you've lived in the Northeast region. So the fact that we've been able to kind of carry on that culture, which relates also to the success and the safety record that we have. So I think that's the thing I'm the most proud of. And when I go visit one of the other regions and have the same kind of experience, that's very cool. We're real proud of that.
Fantastic. Well, David, I know you're a busy man. Thank you so much for joining us today and letting everybody know about Hooked on Driving. Again, so online, www.hookedondriving.com. We'll have the link below in the description as well. But David, again, thanks so much for joining us and for supporting our event. We'll do you proud this year. So for the 2023 Tire Rack One Lap of America, presented by Grassroots Motorsport Magazine, with coverage brought to you by Hooked on Driving for 2023. Again, I'm Solomon, that's Brian, and thank you so much, David.
Thank you for the opportunity. Have a safe and great event.
We look forward to it.